from Hollywood, I'm Martin Grove, welcoming you to our Screendollars podcast, Boxoffice Autopsy. Right now, we'll look at the movie marketplace and analyze how things are going and where they're going, sharing some opinions from my perspective after decades of talking about Hollywood on CNN Entertainment Tonight and as a Hollywood Reporter columnist. Well, February definitely began better than January ended. At least there were two wide openings to try to lure moviegoers from their couches, and it definitely helped that neither the R-rated Jackass Forever from Paramount and MTV, nor the PG-13 Moonfall from Lionsgate and Centropolis Entertainment were streaming day and date, neither one. As expected from tracking reports, Jackass kicked off best with $23.5 million, sending Spidey from first to third place. Exhibitors were projecting 17 to 19 million, so it overperformed nicely. And it's another indication that Omicron's not keeping moviegoers at home in front of their flat screens. Good signs of playability are that critics and moviegoers all like it. On Rotten Tomatoes, it's 85% fresh with critics, and it's got a 93% audience score. That translates into favorable word of mouth. Here's a quick look at why Jackass is a fun movie for its top demos, men under and over 25.
Hello, I'm Johnny Knoxville. Welcome to Jackass.
We're on the Paramount backlot filming the opening sequence of Jackass Forever. We brought in a number of new cast members.
I want to say my name.
All right, say your name.
This is Zach, I'm Jasper, and this is Body Surfing, motherfucker.
This is my first movie. It feels really great to be invited into the crew and everything.
What did you think when you got the call to come in and sit down with us?
First thought was, hopefully I don't die. Then I was like, hey, at least I'll die on camera.
How you doing over there, Rachel?
E-Man's going to space. It made me laugh so hard, and I'm literally seeing childhood heroes of mine come to life. Grandpa, are you okay? My mind is blown.
I'm Eric, I'm from South London. I love skating and I love getting a bit hurt.
When you get knocked down, you got...
I'm Poopy's big-time movie star.
My friend Trip goes, hey, I want to introduce you to a couple of my friends. I want you to come test out for Jackass. And I was like, no way, speechless at that moment.
It's a Texas rat snake.
Venomous?
But you love snakes.
No, I don't.
You don't love snakes?
No.
I was pretty nervous getting brought into this movie, honestly, because I'm doing crazy stuff with all these people that I've looked up to my entire life.
Yes, definitely a fun movie for our troubled times. That video we just heard told Jackass fans that if they liked the series' earlier episodes, they'll enjoy this one too. The first three Jackass films opened in 2002, 6, and 10, and the spin-off, Jackass Presents Bad Grandpa, hit theaters in 2013. Between them, they grossed about $355 million domestically. And since this episode reportedly only cost $10 million to make, Jackass Forever should be nicely profitable. This weekend's other new launch, Moonfall, went into a second-place orbit with $10 million. Exhibitors were thinking between 9 and 11 million, so it's certainly mid-range, but certainly not a good opening. Unlike Jackass, Moonfall's an expensive production, reportedly costing about $140 million, but fortunately for Lionsgate, it's only releasing the sci-fi adventure in U.S. theaters, and isn't in for anything remotely close to the film's production cost. Moonfall is a traditional disaster in space story for sci-fi fans, as we can tell from listening to this scene.
We better do something fast or we're gonna crash down!
I knew I should never have come! Let's lose the other booster and see if the moon can pull us the rest of the way. Casey, can we do it? Come on, buddy! Current momentum! Gravity! Can we do it? Oh, I don't know! Go for SRB separation.
Completed!
Oh god, if this doesn't work, we're dead.
Well, yeah, this better work!
Main tank's down to 0. Jump, get rid of it.
Separated main tank. Right! We're going too slow!
We're not gonna make it!
Nobody was happy with Moonfall on Rotten Tomatoes. Critics slammed it with 39% rotten, and its 67% audience score means moviegoers won't be saying nice things about it. Fortunately for Lionsgate, when Sony Marvel's Morbius moved from January 28th to April 1st, that opened up a lot of IMAX screens, which Moonfall was able to land on, and which helped get it to $10 million. It wouldn't feel right not saying something now about Sony Marvel's Spider-Man No Way Home, so let's note that in weekend 8, it slid to third place with $9.6 million, bringing its domestic cum to $749 million, which means it's only about $11.5 million away from overtaking Avatar's $760.5 million to become the third top-grossing domestic movie ever. That said, it's time to move from the box office to the awards arena, where our Oscar Outlook spotlight today is on Amazon Studios' Best Picture contender, being The Ricardos, directed by Aaron Sorkin, who also wrote its original screenplay. The R-rated biodrama stars Nicole Kidman as Lucille Ball and Javier Bardem as Desi Arnaz. Let's listen in now as Nicole Kidman explains what being Lucy is all about.
I am the biggest asset in the portfolio of the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Quiet, please!
The biggest asset in the portfolio of Philip Morris Tobacco Westinghouse.
Roll sound!
Let's do our show.
I get paid a fortune to do exactly what I love doing.
They got their money's worth.
Pictures up!
I work side by side with my husband, who is genuinely impressed by me. And all I have to do to keep it is kill for 36 weeks in a row.
Okay, let's go.
And then do it again the next year. You know, I did this show so Desi and I could be together.
Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the show!
And action!
I had no idea it was going to be a hit.
And just as I Love Lucy was all about Lucille Ball, being The Ricardos is driven by Aaron Sorkin, an Oscar winner in 2011 for his adapted screenplay The Social Network, and since then an Oscar nominee in 2012 for adapting Moneyball, and in 2018 for adapting Molly's Game, and in 2021 for his original screenplay, The Trial of the Chicago 7. Although Ricardos is a Producers Guild Best Picture nominee, Sorkin didn't get a Directors Guild nom. That could reflect him being best known for many years as a top screenwriter, and only more recently as a director. His directorial debut was Molly's Game, followed by Chicago's 7, and now by Ricardos, for which he has a Writers Guild Original Screenplay nomination. It's worth noting that the DGA's membership differs from the Academy's directing branch in that it also includes TV directors and unit production managers who tend to be a younger demo. Members of the Academy's directors branch are an older and more elite group that could surprise by giving Sorkin his first and very well-deserved directing nod. Ricardos didn't get an outstanding cast nod from the Screen Actors Guild, but it did score SAG nominations for lead actress Nicole Kidman and lead actor Javier Bardem. That augurs well for them winding up in the comparable Oscar races, as actors are the Academy's biggest voting branch. Meanwhile, next week on Box Office Autopsy, we'll look at the openings of Universal and New Yorker Productions' rom-com Marry Me, starring Jennifer Lopez and Owen Wilson at about 3,500 theaters, Briarcliff's sci-fi mystery Backlight, and Disney and 20th Century Studios' Agatha Christie mystery Death on the Nile at about 3,300 locations. Today, let's wrap up with a few well-chosen words about Death on the Nile.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the newlyweds, Mr. and Mrs. Simon Doyle. You must meet Hercule Poirot. He's the greatest detective alive.
I suspect you invited me for reasons other than the fun.
When you have money, no one is ever really your friend.
The crime is murder. The murderer is one of you. It was methodically planned. Did you see or hear anything? Someone else is dead. What did you do last night?
You accused me of murder.
He accuses everyone of murder.
It is a problem, I admit.
I want you to find who did this.
There are so many conflicting hates and jealousies.
Lock the doors!
The murderer is here and will stay here.
Now, if you thought you just heard Kenneth Branagh's voice, you did. He stars as Agatha Christie's sleuth Hercule Poirot, and on top of that, he also directed Nile. Branagh's versatility as an actor and director could be helpful on the Belfast Oscar front. And one quick final thought for today about that. The Academy will reveal its Oscar nominations February 8th. Belfast looks like it will not only make the group of 10 Best Picture contenders, but will be the front runner. It's the only hopeful that has all 4 of the noms that really matter most: PGA and DGA and SAG's Outstanding Cast, plus the American Cinema Editor's Ace Film Editing nom. So Kenneth Branagh may be in for some very good news soon, and of course he'll need all the good news he can as a front runner. Front runners are always vulnerable, and it's hard to stay the front runner, and we still have a long time. Oscars aren't until the very end of March. So looking at Belfast, it's certainly a very, very strong front runner. However, there are other films likely to be in that Oscar Best Picture nominations list of 10 that are also strong. The political satire Don't Look Up speaks to the Academy's American members during today's very troubled times. King Richard is one of few diversity-driven contenders at a time when the Academy has laboriously diversified its membership. In West Side Story, Steven Spielberg addresses divisions between people, which are more relevant to our times than they were to 1957 when the play opened. Dune is the only epic film that's likely to get into the race. It recalls a time when Oscars Best Pictures had the broad scope and the look that defined Hollywood. And that's just a sprinkling of thoughts about some of the pictures likely to get into the race. But certainly we'll be keeping an eye on all of the Oscar nominations. So please join us again next week for the next episode of Box Office Autopsy. We'll look at the new openings, plus who did and didn't get Oscar noms. Until then, thanks very much for listening. Time now for our film flashback look at what was happening in Hollywood right around now, way back then. Let's set today's time travel dial for February 5th, 1944. When Captain America came to life at movie theaters February 5th, 1944, as a weekly Republic Pictures serial, Timely Comics was unhappy that its superhero on-screen was nothing like his famous comic book self. Timely, which evolved into Marvel Comics in the 1960s, had done a deal with Republic, a leading indie distributor of low-budget westerns and serials at the time, to bring Captain America to the big screen. The 15-part serial, the first time a Marvel character went Hollywood, turned out to be Republic's final superhero serial, and its most expensive at about $223,000. Serials were part of the overall entertainment program moviegoers saw at cinemas in the 1930s and 40s. Over the years, Republic got a reputation for changing characters for its serials. But with Captain America, the differences with the comic book superhero were so great that Timely was furious. To begin with, U.S. Army Private Steve Rogers wasn't even in the serial. Instead, Captain America's alter ego was Grant Gardner, a crime-fighting district attorney. The comic book took place during World War II, with Rogers as a weakling who's turned into the ultimate fighter thanks to a super soldier serum experiment. But there was nothing like that in the serial. Captain America's signature red, white, and blue shield was replaced by a gun. Captain America was famous for fighting Nazis, but there weren't any Nazis in the serial. The comic book captain's sidekick, Bucky, was gone. In Republic serials, unmasking the villain's identity was a key plot point in the final chapter, but in this one, it was known from the start. What may have accounted for Republic's extensive reworking of the comic book storyline was that the studio already had a script for an unproduced sequel to its 1940 serial Mysterious Dr. Satan, about a masked hero called the Copperhead. Perhaps Republic hoped to recoup its costs for that screenplay by turning it into a new Captain America serial. When Timely took issue with the changes, Republic replied Timely hadn't given it materials explaining Captain America was Steve Rogers, a soldier with a shield rather than a gun. Republic also claimed Timely's complaints were untimely because production was already well underway and changes were impossible. In the end, Republic won by pointing out, as Hollywood still does today, that it wasn't under any contractual obligation to do anything Timely was upset about. And that's it for today's podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll be back with another Box Office Autopsy next week. In Hollywood for Screendollars, I'm Martin Globe.